This is Scott Spratt of Pro Football Focus, and here's another Dynasty Minute. 2013 was a disappointing season for Marcus Colston, who finished just 27th among wide receivers in standard fantasy points. Last year, he had just 75 catches, 943 yards, and 5 touchdowns. That's his fewest catches he's had in a season since 2009, and the fewest receiving yards and receiving touchdowns he's had in a season since 2008. And Colston missed several games in 2008 due to an injury. While many fantasy owners were ready to leave Colston for dead halfway through the season, you may have overlooked the fact that he rebounded extremely well in the second half. For the first 8 games for the Saints last season, Colston had just 27 catches, 342 yards, and a touchdown, and was essentially unusable in standard fantasy formats. The second half was great, however, with 48 catches, 601 yards, and 4 touchdowns, good for the 11th best total among wide receivers. He's 30 years old, so there may not be tons of seasons left in the tank, but for those who looked at his overall line from last year and assume that he's done, that's probably not the case. Remember, he entered 2013 nursing a foot injury. He was able to play through that, but the chances are he wasn't truly healthy to the second half of the season. He's fallen into the 37th overall wide receiver being taken off many boards, so I think you can actually get a very nice value there with a top 20 wide receiver for this season. For those looking into the future, however, Drew Brees probably has several good seasons left in the tank. He's just 35 years old. So now is a really good time to try to identify the next Saints wide receiver to jump out of the pack. I think that player is Kenny Stills, who was a rookie last year and is still just 21 years old. He doesn't have the extreme pedigree. He was just a 5th-round pick out of Oklahoma, but he had a very nice rookie season with 32 receptions, 641 yards, and 5 touchdowns. He's got a little bit more struggle getting those reception totals to climb next season because he has so many other non-wide receivers doing damage for the Saints. That includes Jimmy Graham, the number 1 tight end, who had 86 receptions last year. And the Saints actually had 2 running backs, both Darren Sproles and Pierre Thomas, who had more than 70 receptions last year, which is basically unheard of. But Stills has the downfield threat ability. He's a very fast player. He had a 17.1 average depth of target last year, which was the 4th highest at the position, which means that Brees looked for him down the field. That's extremely useful in this offense because not only does Graham, Sproles, and Thomas take up the middle of the field, but even Marcus Colston ran more than 50% of his routes from the slot last season, so Stills has room to operate on the outside. He's a little bit of a small player. He's only 6'1" and 194 pounds, so he's more along the Deshaun Jackson mold than he is among the Alshon Jeffries and Josh Gordons of the world, who were 2 second-year wide receivers who had a huge breakout last season. If I were going to compare Stills to anybody, I would probably do it to Mike Wallace, who were similar sizes. Wallace was a little bit faster with a 4.33 second 40-yard dash in his combine, whereas Stills was 4.38 seconds. But the comparison is there. And while Wallace had a 39-catch, 756-yard rookie campaign, he jumped to 60 catches, 1,257 yards his second year. I'm not sure Stills is going to get the increase in workload to jump quite to Mike Wallace's level, but the chances are he's going to get there eventually because those targets are just going to keep coming in the Saints offense as long as Drew Brees is there and playing up to the extreme level that he is right now. Stills is going undrafted in a lot of standard leagues, so look for him as a late flyer this year, especially in dynasty formats.